Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. You guys have been a fantastic audience. I'm just going to give you a few closing remarks to summarize everything that we've done today, right? So last year, when we were planning this event, we had a debate, and the strains of that debate you may have picked up from the conversation today. And it was basically around, is the African growth story sustainable, right? At the time, the co-chairs are from three countries, but two of the countries, Nigeria and South Africa, were in recessions that were partly caused by the fact that the commodity super cycle was waning. And a lot of the confident optimism that characterized the story for the previous years was disappearing. And it looked like the Africa Rising story was beginning to show cracks in it, right? So we decided we were not going to do a sales speech for Africa, even though we still believed in the opportunity. So what we decided to do was to put together a program that was more exploratory in nature, that we were going to ask questions more than we were going to tell. And we hope that your experience here today has been consistent with that exploratory approach. We started with a broad picture, and then we zoomed in to look at how innovation is driving change in business on the continent. And then we had a panel where we talked about how you actually go ahead and seize that opportunity. In a day where we've had fantastic speakers like Ashish, I'm not going to try and compete. So I'm going to share a story instead, and hope that story summarizes some of the key points I would like you to depart with. So about 2 years ago, I lived in Ghana, in the capital city of Accra, and I was heading to the airport. And if you've ever been to Africa, this is the typical street scene. So street lights, mixture of cars, some luxurious, some not, and hustlers trying to sell you things, right? So maybe it was the latest Davido album, or if this was Lagos, it could be a dog. And some other hustlers were not trying to sell anything, but they were asking for handouts, right? And so typical scene, you can, if you think carefully, you can almost smell the fumes, right? But the person that caught my attention wasn't trying to sell anything. She was on a wheelchair. She was sitting to the side. And she was on a mobile phone. And she was laughing. And she caught my attention because imagine a life lived on the margins where you basically get your living from alms, right? But she had I don't think it was a smartphone, but she had a cell phone. I remember when my parents got their first cell phone, probably cost half of their middle-class salaries, right? So that's the big picture. We have a change in policy, macro-level stuff, and competitive markets democratizing access to technology, right? And some of the stats are staggering. If you think about Nigeria, Jumia thinks that there are 100 million people who have internet access in Nigeria, for example. And entrepreneurs are paying attention to that. But before we move on to entrepreneurship, which is very important, just think about the value of that connection that brought cheer to that lady on the street through her cell phone. How do you price that? So there's an opportunity here to have real impact that goes beyond financial metrics. And if business is fundamentally about creating value and deriving a reward, and financial reward here on earth, the reality is when you think about a picture of luxury cars and hustlers, there's inequality in that, and that inequality sort of reflects the markets as well. And entrepreneurs who are able to understand the difference in those two markets that they're targeting are taking advantage of that. And we've spoken about the innovations that they've come up with to take advantage of those sort of dichotomies, right? I'll highlight one, M-Copper, for example. I was reading on the website, and they're heading towards sort of lighting up something like 500,000 homes across the region. I think they're a shining example, if you pardon the pun. So that leads to my final point, which is around infrastructure. We all know that infrastructure drives productivity, and across the continent, we can see a growth in both the conventional infrastructure, like the off-grid solar example that I'm giving, but also your conventional forms like roads and ports. We've had a lot of talk about Chinese investments, coming into the continent to power these things. And the airport I was heading to, the Kotoka International Airport in Ghana, it had started life as a Royal Air Force base, in the World War II, and was at that time handling about 2.5 million passengers a year. It's tiny, but it was growing. And at the time I was leaving in 2016, they were actually building, the plans were underway to build a third terminal to expand that to 5 million passengers a year. So this story of infrastructure, much needed infrastructure getting built, is replicated across Africa, even though I've chosen a Ghanaian example. And even though progress sometimes seems slow, the truth is it's happening. So what's the point of the story? It's about framing, right? It's a simple picture. But when you frame it properly and you have the right context, you start to uncover things that were not immediately apparent. And that's what we try to do here today. We try to help you build granularity that can only come from having local knowledge and from engaging with the problem, right? And that's what we've set to do as an OBN throughout this year. We are pushing to help you get beyond just the headline stats and to start to realize that to really unlock the African opportunity, you need to get beneath the surface and engage with the continent. And we think that forums like this are an excellent way to do that. So we hope that this forum has whet your appetite and that you will engage and that you will join us in this journey to unlock Africa's opportunity and continue to accelerate our growth. Thank you. Thank you very much. And along the lines of engaging, there will be networking drinks in the reception just after Dean Tufano's speech. And for those who are really, really keen, there's going to be an after party at Freud, which is just beside the Blavatnik School. It's about 10 minutes away from here. And that's going to be in collaboration with the Oxford Africa Society. I would now like to invite our Dean, Peter Tufano, to the stage for... Thank you.
After all the great speakers and Bayo's great conclusion, I'm not going to do much more, but I think that in the last sentence you said this was a journey. Last year when we ran this event, we did African proverbs as a theme. And one proverb stuck with me that I think is relevant to this journey, and is, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. If you want to walk far, walk together. And that's what this is about. It's bringing you all together. And therefore, my only job is to say thank you. First, to those of you who are guests, this is Saturday. You don't have to go to school on Saturday or go to work on Saturday, but you came here to be together on a Saturday. So thank you for taking time out of your lives to join us. To our speakers, and some are still here. Some are about to get on planes or have just gotten on planes or have flown here just for this, just to be with you. I can't thank them enough for the contributions they've made, for not only their insight and expertise, but also for their frankness, for their humility, for their humanness. And so thank you very much for all our speakers. Our sponsors. Our tremendous thanks to our sponsors. Our main sponsor, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, our gala dinner sponsor last night, CDC, and to all of our partners who are shown here. In all your many ways, you've helped to make today happen, so thank you very much. It's a big school. We have about 400 staff who work here. You're not going to see most of them, but the catering team that provided the food, the AV team that's miking us up, the marketing team that worked on all this stuff, thank you all to them as well. Okay, if you've got your badges, could you just all take your badges and turn them around to the back? And you're going to see a list of, a long list of the students who've made this event possible. I'd like those students, if they're in the room, to stand up. They could have been doing their assignments or looking for a job or having a great time socially here in Oxford or going to a ball or whatever, but they took the time to put this event together as a gift to you. So thank you so much. And in that spirit, I'd like two people to thank two people especially, and I ask them to come up, which is the co-chairs of the forum, Bharati and Tammy. This is International Women's Week this week, and it should. And one of the things that may have come out is that while we're struggling to get to 50% of our class from Africa, from women, we're at 41%. Our African students are more than 50% women, and thanks to you, and thanks to you. Their hard work is what makes this all possible. You've all been polite, you've all been thankful, but now let's make a lot of noise and say thank you to these two amazing people. Come on!